I want to start this video with a question for you guys. When was the last time you were left utterly speechless after finishing an anime episode? The episode is over and the ending credits are rolling while you're still trying to process what the hell you just witnessed. And for me, despite being spoiled on the major shocking moment of the episode, that is exactly how I felt after watching Season 2 episode 22 of Mushoku Tensei. This episode was an emotional roller coaster, going from insanely hype moments to pure depression. It is easily one of the best Mushoku Tensei episodes and honestly episode of the year worthy. And I have to give a massive shout out to all the staff members who worked on this incredible episode, and especially Kyukawa and Yasuhiko Akiyama who directed the episode. If you don't know, Kyukawa is the animator responsible for some of the best animated Mushoku Tensei moments such as the Orsted fight, the Ares sequence from the OVA and a lot more. And that's why, as soon as I heard that he was gonna be directing this episode, my expectations were sky high. And I am very pleased to inform you guys that this episode completely surpassed all of my expectations, both in terms of visuals as well as the story as an anime only. They delivered one of the best boss battles I have ever seen, and what I love the most is the teamwork that's showcased throughout the entire fight. The first encounter with the Hydra was insane. I thought Paul was about to get humbled by the Hydra, but he proved me wrong and went absolutely apeshit on the Hydra and sliced two heads like butter. I owe you an apology, Paul. I was not familiar with your game at all. Roxy and Rudy tried to use their magic, but it was utterly useless because the Hydra can use sound waves to negate magic. Basically, this Hydra has plus 100 magic resistance along with regeneration. The worst possible enemy for a mage, and if Paul wasn't there, they would be absolutely cooked. Elena Lees was also a badass this episode, but even she couldn't manage to pierce the scales, and this shows just how powerful Paul truly is. I was genuinely surprised by his performance this episode, but sadly they had to retreat after realizing that the Hydra can regenerate itself and form an actual plan to defeat it. And this entire retreat section was one of my favorite parts of the episode. You can feel just how tense it was through Paul's facial expressions. You honestly can't even blame him for feeling as if Rudy doesn't care about his own mother because he's so calm and wondering if she's even alive. But at the same time, you can also understand Rudy because it's been more than a decade since the last time he saw her, and unlike Paul, who he reconciled with and formed a stronger connection, he hasn't even seen Zenith's face in a long time. Plus, the fact that he is isekai means that he doesn't have a natural connection with both of them. Rudy figuring out how to defeat the Hydra by using the legend of Heracles is just so damn cool. As I've said before, using real-world knowledge is a very common trope in isekai anime, but because Mushoku Tensei uses this trope so rarely, it's always a treat when it does happen, especially on a huge moment like this, where this knowledge is the difference between life and death. And the line that stands out the most in this entire scene is Paul telling Rudy to save Zenith even if he dies. It's just such an unusual line for a father character to say, but strangely enough, it makes Paul such an interesting character. At first you'd think that he doesn't care if Rudy dies as long as he can save Zenith, but that's clearly not the case based on what happens later in the episode. It's just such an interesting line, and I feel like I haven't even fully grasped it yet. Then we move on to the second round of the Hydra fight. Paul was easily the MVP of this entire fight and honestly the entire episode. The animators made every single sequence with Paul look so freaking incredible, and the same with Elena Lees. I'm honestly starting to really like Elena Lees after this episode. Her shielding Rudy and freezing the head after jamming into the wound with her sword was just too damn epic and well animated. Another standout moment of the episode was Rudy using a water shield to block the Hydra's fire breath. Really beautiful moment, especially with Roxy hugging Rudy. And what I love the most about this scene is that we've seen him blocking a fire breath from the Red Dragon with a water shield way back in part 1. I love the callback to that fight and essentially getting a way crazier version of the fight with another dragon. But my favorite sequence of the episode has to be Rudy jamming his hand into the eye and using earth magic from the inside. It was just so damn gnarly and raw. Plus, the Hydra chopping Rudy's hand by closing its eyelid has to be one of the craziest things I've ever seen in any anime. Paired with the visceral Roxy scream and crazy animation, while she finishes off the dragon was insanely epic. And what makes the scene even better is Rudy naming both of his arms in the beginning of part 1, and the arm he ended up losing was the one named Heracles. Incredible stuff all around. Then we have Rudy trying to heal his hand, and I love just how excruciatingly long it takes for him just to close the wound. I thought that he was about to regenerate his whole hand or something, but I'm kinda glad that he can't. Honestly excited for his new character design with a single hand or potentially getting a new prosthetic arm. And after that, we have the big moment of the episode, what most people are going to be talking about, and that is Paul's death after he saved Rudy from the final head. As I said at the start of the video, I was actually spoiled about this moment a long time ago. So yeah, it did not have the same impact it would have had on me if I wasn't spoiled, but it was still a really emotional moment with Paul dying with a smile on his face after seeing Rudy. But the moment that did hit me like a truck was seeing Zenith seemingly turned into a vegetable. I was genuinely not expecting this to happen after Paul's death, and I was preparing myself to see her break down after hearing the news about Paul. But what I ended up getting was her not recognizing Rudy and being unable to speak. Holy fuck. Even after losing Paul, I imagined Rudy wasn't completely broken because Paul died with a smile on his face, protecting his family. Even though he did not have a strong connection with Zenith, you can imagine him thinking that, even though it's late, they can just start to form a connection from now on. And you can see him breaking and completely losing the light in his eyes as soon as he realizes what just happened. And with the title drop, I was left utterly speechless for a few minutes after the episode ended. This is easily one of the best Mushoku Tensei episodes and possibly the best anime episode this year. It was absolutely incredible, and I just have to say, Mushoku Tensei is truly something special.